Hey VC, this is Ron. Welcome back to another one of my videos. Today we're going to look at a few of my thrift store finds. I picked up some stuff within the last week at a new Phoenix record store that just opened up. Pretty nice place. I'm really looking forward to spending some time there. And also, I pulled some things out of my collection. So as you know, it's dried up pretty bad as far as finding good quality records in thrift stores. And you might say that it's slim pickings. And I picked up this Slim Pickens album the other day. It was still sealed. And it's got a sticker here that says it was Rolling Stones Off the Wall Album of the Year for 1977. And it's got a cool picture of Slim wearing headphones and his cowboy hat. And there's a couple of Kinky Friedman songs on here, and it's on Blue Canyon. And mainly it's sort of light-hearted, humorous songs. Most of it's pretty much spoken word set to music. If he does sing, it's just, slightly. But I like Slim Pickens. I'm a classic westerns movie buff, and so that was an enjoyable listen. And then also I got Reflections by Stan Getz on Verve, 1963 jazz album. Nice copy of that. So I'll probably end up trading that one in. And then I got the second Bangles album. And this has got the hits Walk Like an Egyptian and Manic Monday. And I was surprised to find out that Manic Monday was actually written by Prince. But on the writing credit, it's an alias by the name of Christopher. Pretty good album. It's on Columbia. And I guess they started out in the Paisley underground scene. They were a little more garagey back then. And from what I understand, their first album's better than this one, so I may end up having to check that one out. Okay, I got the First Illusion, and Matt just picked this up, and he showed it in his last video, and I came across a pretty nice copy, so I snagged that today, and I had a chance to listen to side one. Matt says he likes this the best out of the three. I'm a big fan of the third one. I'm going to really have to get into this album and then listen to the third one again to make the decision. But what I did here, it sounded really good. Sort of heavy soul rock, heavy soul psych rock, little bit of softer stuff thrown in there, I think. And yeah, these guys were very good, very underrated band, so if you've never heard The Illusion, definitely could check them out. And also, I just this record store that I just started to go to, that just recently opened up, they have these sleeves, these mylar sleeves. They're like the resealables, except they don't have the flap. So I really like these. I guess they have these in a couple of different mill sizes. This is more of a lightweight sleeve. But man, I want to do my whole collection in these, but they're like 50 sleeves for 12 bucks. Really not too bad of a price, but when you're talking hundreds and hundreds of albums, it can get costly, but I really like those sleeves. And then I got Gees Odessa, and I am really happy to get this because this is a nice copy. There's some light wear to the felt cover, but these covers are so fragile and susceptible to dirt, that I'm really happy with this copy. And the vinyl is near mint, clean originals, and this is just a 4-star excellent album. I was really surprised on how good this was. It's got a lot of orchestration, but it's sort of proggy pop psych. with orchestration, and there's a couple of country tracks that are thrown in that kind of stick out, but really good album. I had no idea that the Bee Gees did anything on this high of an artistic level. You know, I saw a few people in the VC talking about this album, so it immediately went under my radar, and man, I scored a copy, so I'm really happy with that, and I got it at a nice price. Okay, I got a mono copy of the McCoys, Hang On Sloopy, 1965 early garage album, and it's on the Bang label. Good mixture of garage, soul, R&B, folk rock. Pretty good record. And Rick Derringer is the guitarist and the singer for this band. And it's kind of interesting, just by coincidence, that the Bang logo has a Derringer on it, so that's pretty cool. And then I got the third Country Joe and the Fish together, and this is 1968. There's a picture of Country Joe's wedding, and this is the last album where the original band was still together. And check this out, Yellow Vanguard label. When I pulled that out, it kind of surprised me because I'd never seen a Yellow Vanguard label, and I thought maybe it was Canadian. And I was looking it over, and I saw a little text right here, and it says that it's Record Club. So that's a Record Club only label, so that's pretty cool. Now, this is a 4-star album, excellent. Not real psychy. There's a couple of psyche tunes on here. One of them's by Chicken Hirsch. Really cool track. I believe it is the track Susan. And yeah, really good album. This next one is Arthur Lee Vindicator, 1972, and this is more of a hard rock guitar album, Hendrixy in places, and I like it for what it is. It's actually pretty good, strong, solid album, and it's on A&M, and I'm sure that this isn't Bo's cup of tea, but personally I like it for what it is. Okay, I got one more recent find to show, and it's a 7-inch picture disc, and it's David Peale, and it's got a picture of David Peale with John and Yoko, and on the B side it's got like a little 2-minute John Lennon interview where he's talking about how he met David Peale, and then on the other side it's got David Peale singing a song called In My Life, but it's not a Beatles cover version. It's a different In My Life. So I'm thinking that this is actually dated 1980. So I'm thinking that maybe he put it out right after John died, trying to make a buck off of it. Maybe he was hoping that people would think that was a Beatles cover tune, when in reality it's not. But an interesting thing is, it's actually autographed by David Peale, and there's one of these on eBay right now, and the seller is selling it, and it's got the same signature, so I'm sure that that is most likely authentic. Okay, now we're going to get into a little UK stuff that I pulled out of my collection, and this first one is Traffic, Mr. Fantasy, and this is an original US copy, and I'm showing this as it has the label shows the original title of this album, which was Heaven Is In Your Mind, and there are actually covers that say Heaven Is In Your Mind. I had an opportunity to get one of those out of a thrift store once, and I passed. and I'm really angry at myself about that. They do turn up on eBay, but yeah, I got it's this kind of a transition copy where the cover's Mr. Fantasy, but they were using up the last of the labels for Heaven Is In Your Mind. This next one is a reissue of Cream's first album, Fresh Cream, and it was retitled Full Cream. And this probably came out about 1970. This is a UK copy, original on Polydor. And this has got the track Spoonful, which was not on the US copy of Fresh Cream. We got a single edit of it. They took since the song is so long, they put it on a single and they butchered it, put part 1 on side 1 and part 2 on the other side. So that's cool to have that, and that is kind of an obscure album that don't really turn up too much. This next one is an original copy of Goodbye Cream, original UK copy. It's on Polydor. And I don't know if these had a poster in it or not. The US copies did. And this is my US poster for Goodbye Cream. Hold it back. It says goodbye or farewell from the Cream at the bottom with an Echo Records at the bottom. These are pretty scarce. I don't think these turn up very much at all. I'm trying to find a nice Goodbye Cream US copy, but they're always worn. They're hard to find because of the cover, you know. But this one came out really close to Goodbye Cream in its Blind Faith. It came out right after it, and the catalog numbers are pretty close together. And this is an early first run, low matrix stamper on it. So this is like the earliest copy that there is, and gatefold. And it was rumored that was Ginger Baker's daughter on there, but that's urban legend as far as I know. And she's probably underage. She looks like she's about 15 or 16 years old. And in the US, that cover came out as well as a safe cover, you might call it, and that was eventually banned. But I heard Jeff up in Canada say that that cover was not banned in Canada. This is Danny McCullough, Wings of a Man. And it's on the black Capitol logo. And I think this is 68, 69, right after he left Eric Burdon and the Animals. And in fact, there's a cover version of Orange and Red Beams that was on an Animals album. Not as good as the original, but that's alright. There's some good Psych on this album. It's a little patchy, but pretty good overall. They do a cover version of No Face, No Name, No Number by Traffic. Pretty cool. Okay, now I'm going to show my copy of the first Soft Machine, and this is an original US copy, and it's on Probe, ABC Probe, and it came out in 68. And it's got the Gimmicks cover with the wheel. So that's pretty cool. And this was only out, the wheel was only out for a while, and then they did away with it. And they also censored the cover, so it's got the nude girl on it, on the outside as well as on the inside. And there's also a bit of nudity here on the front cover, right there. And so that was only out for a while, 68 maybe through early 69. Then in 69 they reissued it with a safe cover. They took away the wheel. They put a bikini on the girl as well as the inside. And I compared the vinyl, and the records are pretty close together as far as appearance, but the vinyl on the 69 pressing is a bit lighter than on the original first pressing. So that's a really good album. I like that first Soft Machine quite a bit. And this is the Nice. This is the first Nice album, The Thoughts of Emerus Dave Jack. And it says Keith Emerson, pre-ELP, and it's on the Pink Immediate label. I did some checking, and I believe the very first pressings of this in the UK were on a white label, Immediate label. And then they come out with the second pressing, Pink, and but I think it's still 60s. And it doesn't have the high gloss cover. I don't think that it ever did. It just has a semi-gloss cover. Okay, now I'm going to show some US Psych out of my collection. And I want to make it known that there's a difference between mono and stereo of the first Country Joe and the Fish albums. Obviously the mix is different, but there's also a lot of different edits. If you look at the times on between the mono and the stereo, there's always going to be some sort of a difference in length. In most cases this is going to be like maybe 2 or 3 seconds difference, but there's a few songs on here that have quite a bit of difference between the mono and the stereo mixes. For instance, on the song Bass Strings, stereo is 458, mono is 504. Flying High stereo is 237, mono is 245. Stereo Not So Sweet Martha Lorraine is 418, mono is 426. Section 43 stereo is 723 and mono is 716. I did listen to the difference between the mono and stereo Not So Sweet Martha Lorraine the other day, and the mono does have a longer fade than the stereo. And also on the stereo cover there's a couple of song titles that are different. The mono and stereo covers have different song titles. On the mono it just says Porpoise Mouth. On the stereo it says Happiness is a Porpoise Mouth. And on the mono cover it says Death Sound. And on the stereo cover it says Death Sound Blues. But those different stereo titles are only on the cover. The label is going to have the same song titles as what the mono has, if you follow my drift. Okay, this one is Dreams and Illusions, and it's by some guy named Danny Schloss. He wrote it and sings on it, and he got a whole bunch of jazz musicians together. And it's a pretty decent album. It's his only album, I think, and it's on Verve Forecast. And not a great album, but it is psyche. There's some acid guitar on side 1, a little bit on the first song, and it's quite an unusual album. It's kind of got its own sound, you know what I mean? There's a little bit of sound effects, little electronic sound effects on one song. Not bad, not great. Worth having, I think, if you can find it cheap enough. This is the second Pearls Before Swine balaclava, and there's quite a few different pressings of this. I think I got an earlier pressing. It's got a picture label. Some copies have a poster on the inside of it. Really good album. Tom Rapp was the lead singer, and he did pretty good, you know, for somebody who sang with a lisp. And it has this weird stamp right here. And I used to think that was from a co-op. It says TC Ilahahi. And I googled that, and that's an area in Washington, and it's like there's a reserve and a community by that name. Maybe Bo can fill us in a little more on that in the comments, but yeah, I always thought it was a commune or something, I don't know, or a co-op or whatever, but I finally found out what it was. Okay, this is Tantos' Expanding Headband, and this is their first album on Zero Time. It's called Zero Time, and I guess the original US copies were on Embryo, but this is a Canadian copy. And it's on an unusual red Atlantic label. I believe this is from '70. It's all instrumental. Early electronic prog album. Not great, but I think it's pretty good. And I guess they had a second album years later, and I've never heard that one. But I would say that this is the better of the two, I'm sure. And this last one is a weird Japanese Psych album on Verve Forecast. It was a double album. And the first disc is not very good. The second disc is very psychedelic. It's got Japanese koto music, and then it's got these two guys conversing to one another. Philosophies of the world after they've experienced an acid trip. I think it's a pretty interesting album for that disc 2. Not an easy album to find, but if you spot it, it may be worth your while to check that out if the price is right. Okay guys, that does it, and I'll catch you next time. Take care and have a good week.